Just as you get down.
We're ready, Freddie.
This time, I'd like to call the Garden Grove Housing Authority meeting together. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Beckles, Commissioner Broadwater,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Wynn, Commissioner O'Connor,
Here.
Vice Chair Dalton,
Here.
Chair Beard.
Here. Okay, and that first item is oral communication related to Housing Authority. Seeing none. Item number 2, the consent items.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
Item number 3, public hearings. There are none. Number 4, items for consideration, none. Any matters from the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move to adjournment.
Oh, yeah, way too much, but shovel it out. Still piles up. Everything I throw paper.
Extra backup.
Just need it so you can actually find stuff. Try it on your computer.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call a Garden Grove City Council meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Beard.
Here.
Councilmember Broadwater,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wynn, Mayor Dalton.
Here. Okay, at this time, we'll have the invocation by Kingsley Okereke, the Finance Director, and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Jones.
Okay, please prepare yourself according to your faith. We thank you, Lord, for all those gathered here tonight and for the sense of high purpose we share. As we consider the items before us this evening, we ask that you guide us, give us pure hearts, the strength, and commitment to make the best decision for our Garden Grove community. Amen.
Please face the flag of our great country and say the pledge with me. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a community spotlight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like Mr. Okereke to give the spotlight this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fattel. Mr. Mayor, this evening, the Garden Grove City Council is pleased to shine the community spotlight on last year's Miss Garden Grove and Miss Garden Grove's outstanding team and their cords of honor. They proudly served and represented the city and the community during their reign from August 2011 to August 2012. Will Miss Garden Grove 2012, Bree Moss, Garden Grove's outstanding teen, Jasmine Avalos, along with their courts, Julia McCarty, Amy Lee, Missy Mendoza, O'Reilly, Mariscal, and Isabella Garcia, please come forward. The Miss Garden Grove pageant is an official preliminary to the Miss America pageant. The Miss Garden Grove scholarship pageant distributes over $5,000 in scholarships to local young ladies each year. In addition to performing in a talent competition, each contestant delivers a platform based on a current issue she feels is important. Miss Garden Grove 2012, Bree Morse, a native of Garden Grove, is a business marketing major at California State University at Long Beach. Bree is ranked in the top 20% of undergraduate students at California State University, Long Beach, and currently serves as Vice President of Membership, Director of Scholarship for her sorority. She was a competitive cheerleader for 10 years and competed at the World Championships twice. Bree began competing in Miss Garden Grove program in 2007 and has served on the court for the past 5 years. She previously served as Miss Garden Grove's Outstanding Teen in 2009. Bree was sponsored by the Garden Grove Rotary Club, and her community service platform is Operation Gratitude. The city extends a special thank you to Bree for her model leadership as Miss Garden Grove 2012. Representing the city and community with Miss Garden Grove were her court members, Missy Mendoza, Julia McCurdy, and Amy Lee. Let's begin with congratulations to Missy Mendoza, the newly crowned Miss Garden Grove 2013. Missy is a graduate of Garden Grove High School. She is a 19-year-old freshman at California State University, Fullerton, majoring in nursing. Missy's calm demeanor and caring personality will lend themselves greatly to a nursing career. Missy is a vocalist and has been singing for 10 years. Missy was sponsored by the Kiwanis Club of Greater Garden Grove. Julia McCurdy is a Pacific High School graduate now attending Orange Coast Community College. She hopes to one day have a career in a wedding and event planning. Julia is a talented vocalist and has sung the national anthem at a variety of city and foundation-sponsored events over the past year. Julia's sponsor was the Garden Grove Firefighters Association. Congratulations to Julia on being crowned to the 2013 Princess Court. Amy Lee, a graduate of La Quinta High School, is a 21-year-old senior at the University of California, Irvine, majoring in neurobiology and behavior. Her goal is to obtain a medical degree and become a pediatric neurosurgeon. Towards that end, she is currently studying for her MCAT exams. Amy, a classical pianist, has been on the Miss Garden Grove court 3 times. Her sponsor was Whitcomb Enterprises, McDonald's. In addition to Miss Garden Grove and her court, the City Council would like to recognize Garden Grove's Outstanding Teen 2012, Jasmine Avalos, and Princesses, Aurelie Mariscal and Isabella Garcia. Jasmine Avalos, a 15-year-old incoming sophomore at Bosa Grande High School, is an honor student who has excelled academically. Jasmine is a member of the National Junior Honor Society and a recipient of President Obama's National Golden Academic Award. After graduation, Jasmine plans to major in psychology and become a substance abuse counselor. Jasmine loves to perform and is currently studying dance at the Colony of Performing Arts. Priding herself on staying fit and healthy, her efforts were recognized at the Miss California's Outstanding Teen Pageant this past June, where she received the overall Physical Fitness Award. Jasmine's sponsor was California Relocation Services. Aurelie Mariscal, an incoming junior at Rancho Alamitos High School, has been dancing for the past 7 years and is currently a member of the Garden Grove Godettes dance team. She is a former member of the Los Angeles Clippers Junior Jam Squad. Aurelie's career goal is to become a teacher. Brandywine Homes was her sponsor. Isabella Garcia, a 15-year-old incoming sophomore at Garden Grove High School, has been dancing since she was 3 years old and currently trains at the Colony of Performing Arts, where she is the top soloist in the company Dance Unlimited. Isabella would like to eventually become a special education teacher. Her sponsor was Dan Collins of the Colony of Performing Arts. Congratulations to Isabella for being crowned to the 2013 Garden Grove Outstanding Teen Court. Over the past year, Ms. Garden Grove and Garden Grove's Outstanding Teen, along with their courts, have participated in a variety of community events and service projects. They include the Tree Lighting Celebration, Public Works Open House, Strawberry Festival, and the Garden Grove Communities Foundation Food for Thought Luncheon and free summer concert series. At this time, the Mayor and City Council would like to present the Ms. Garden Grove Scholarship Pageant outgoing courts with certificates and mementos in recognition of their volunteerism in the community during their 2012 reign. The City Council wishes all of you the best and hopes that your aspirations will continue to lead you to recognized and bigger successes. Thank you.
Have a couple pictures taken, and then if any or all of you have any words you want to say, feel free.
Stay up there and you can take your picture.
Stay there, take pictures.
No, we're not worthy.
You guys did a great job.
Squeeze in over that way, kind of center.
Going this way.
This is the camera for us, and then they'll take pictures.
We're going 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Don't move, girls. And then.
On behalf of some of the court, most of the court, I don't know who's going to come up here and talk, but we would just like to thank you all for being so supportive of this organization. We are so lucky to have a city who has council members and a mayor that are so supportive of what this organization supports, and we thank you for always coming to the events. It's nice seeing you guys there. It was wonderful seeing some of you at the pageant, and thank you for everything that you've done for us thus far and for the recognition tonight. It's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that I feel so blessed to be part of such a beautiful community and just to be part of Garden Grove. I know that we have people that are just amazing, and I would like to thank our director, Stacy Margolin, for helping us be part of the many, many events that we had in the city. It's truly a blessing to be part of such a beautiful community, and I would just like to thank you all so much for this recognition. I know that we would do it without it. It's not something that I was expecting, and it's just really, really touching to know that our efforts and that our volunteerism is appreciated, and I hope that you all know that we appreciate you all as much as I hope you appreciate us, and thank you so much for having us tonight and for this such a special recognition. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that it is such an honor to be a part of such a wonderful community. And as I was telling the girls this year, every single time we went to an event, I always left just very humbled and very proud to be a part of this city, because this is truly an amazing city that supports their businesses and their organizations, and we really just can't thank you enough. And it is such an honor to be able to represent this city at California in June next summer.
Anybody else? Okay. Okay, now we'll go to oral communications for the council, the successor agency, and the sanitary district. Andy Dunn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Fertel. Some of you may know me from my service on your post-RDA oversight board, but I'm here this evening in my capacity as the Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administrative Services for the Coast Community College District. Difficult, I might add, to follow a presentation like that, but I'll try. Anyway, I'm here this evening to share an important action our Board of Trustees took a few weeks ago, and that was to place a general obligation bond measure on the November ballot. Of course, Garden Grove is one of our one of the cities in our service area. So I wanted to take just a few minutes to share that news with you, tell you a little bit about why and why now. That's a question we've received from many folks. Talk about the accountability measures that would be put in place, what we might be able to do to the center that we have here in Garden Grove, and if time permits and the council desires, field any questions you might have. So first, why now? Well, 10 years ago, our community, including Garden Grove, was supportive enough to approve a general obligation bond measure for the district. And we're at the tail end of that program now. And that bond measure had allowed us to build a lot of net new square footage. This new measure would be focused largely on renovation type measures. And there's another key issue at play here. The last 5-6 years or so, we really haven't been able to count on Sacramento the way we did in the past for funding. The last statewide education bond was approved by the voters in 2006, and there used to be programs for the community colleges that would fund technology and fund building renovation or systems replacement, and those programs haven't been funded in 4 or 5 years. So we're really finding that we have to take matters into our own hands. And one thing we can say about this is that this measure would be governed locally by our board as well as by a citizens oversight committee, controlled locally, and these funds, of course, couldn't be touched by Sacramento or by Washington. We also believe that we have a key role in helping jumpstart or keep the economy moving as being one of the a big training source for a lot of first responders, nurses, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, and we also have a large program serving members of our military. So there's certainly value there, and I would offer to you, if you're interested, we have a lot of planning documents available on our website or through my office if you so choose. About accountability, as I said, these funds stay local. Sacramento can't touch them. And just as was the case for the bond in 2002, we would have to undergo 2 annual audits, and we would also have to establish, or continue rather, our Citizens Oversight Committee. And lastly, Garden Grove. We have a center here in Garden Grove, and we would have funds dedicated in this program to do some much needed maintenance and renovation, improve our energy efficiency there. And there's also a concept for a student commons or a student union there. We're really trying to create a sense of critical mass at that facility. So I just wanted to give the council and the community here a quick snapshot of what our plans are, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you for listening.
Council, have any questions?
Is there a website or phone number people could go to if they want more information?
Certainly. Coast Community College District, our website, cccd.edu. And I believe you all have my contact information. I'd be happy to field any calls you might have.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate it. Josh McIntosh.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and residents and business owners of Garden Grove. My name is Josh McIntosh. I'm a homeowner, business owner, community activist, and volunteer in the City of Garden Grove. And I love Garden Grove. Okay, I'm not going to be making any new friends tonight, and I'll probably be peeling some scabs off some wounds and pissing some people off. But tonight, the first thing I want to talk about is the Garden Grove Indie Film Festival. I'm not going to fool myself and say it was very successful, but it did happen. We had a lot of obstacles to go through. We didn't get very much support from the city, although I stood up here months in advance and asked the city for support ahead of time and said, what can we do? What can community services do? And pretty much we got every obstacle put in front of us we could, but we pulled it off for what it was worth. The biggest problem we had was that just about everybody that went was involved with the films themselves and not so much a Garden Grove resident or our own people didn't attend it. The problem was mostly with advertising or lack of advertising, and it just wasn't very successful. I'm hoping if we do it again next year that the city will get involved from the beginning and try and lend a hand. We blew another opportunity to have a great film festival such as Newport and all these other cities. I mean, Newport Beach gives $50,000 to help out their film festival, which in return brings in hundreds of $1,000s in revenue. We didn't get anywhere near that. But on a side note, I'd like to thank Councilman Jones, the only member of this council that I saw down there during the film festival, and he actually went through his phone and tried to help us out with some last-minute help on the day of the first day of the festival. So, Mr. Jones, thank you for your offer. We got the film screen we needed, but thank you for offering and being there. It's nice to see you on Main Street. Okay, enough about that. My next bit here is the grim financial report given by Garden Grove City Management. Well, Mr. Fertel, I don't agree with this so much. This was in this week's Garden Grove Journal, and it pretty much states there's just nowhere else to cut. We're using the last of our reserves. We have no more assets to sell. I disagree. I've got this list here of a number of properties we've been purchasing and paying huge amounts to acquire through the years, and I would sell half of them. They're not doing us any good. I don't know, look at the Black Angus. What are we doing there? What's going on? And there's just so many similar places like that. In addition, it says, Fertel noted that self-insured medical workers' compensation funds are doing well right now, so we've drawn from those funds. By drawing from those funds and others, $8 million, the current budget of $91.5 million actually shows us in a plus. Well, we're borrowing money to show that and it's like inflating it. We're borrowing from Paul to pay Peter, and that's not real money. That's borrowing funds. What happens if we need those funds? Well, we've borrowed them and given them to someone else. And you're going to hate me for this. We're paying a city manager $21,261 a month. A community development director, $11,000 to $15,000 a month. Community services director, $10,000 to $14,500 a month. City deputy city manager, $10,000 to $14,500 a month. I mean, in the private sector, when we're strapped for cash, we take pay cuts. Before I lost my full-time job in March, I had to take a hefty pay cut, and that's what the real world does. The city of Garden Grove can cut some money. We can save some money. We're just going to have to tighten the belt a little bit. And this webmaster making $5,700 to $7,700 a month to run our website, he's overpaid. That's it.
Peggy Bergen.
Peggy Bergen. I am a 38-year resident in the city now. It was going to be a short stop when I bought the house, but you know how things are. Prices went up and incomes didn't go up. But anyways, I've enjoyed living in this city for this length of time. I found it a great place to raise my kids, and our schools are excellent compared to a lot of the other ones that have these real posh reputations. Our kids actually learn how to learn, and they also learn how to get along with other people, which is probably the most important thing you'll ever learn in life. Well, I do have a few little issues. Well, I was going to bring up the film festival as well, because I happened to notice on the Friday that the film festival started in Garden Grove, we had our little piece in the register that said what's going on. We're having a 3-day film festival. That's about it on Main Street. That was our information. But on the same day, Dana Point, whose film festival was not starting until Sunday, had almost 2.5 pages itemizing minute by minute what was going to happen, where it was going to happen, who was going to be there. Now, I know, before you even say anything, you people are not the register. But you can get on the register's back and say, how come you ignore us when we have anything going on? The only thing we ever get a splurt about is the Strawberry Festival. Thankfully, they do that, but it's already got such a following, it doesn't need a reputation. It doesn't need advertising on the front page of the local section. But what happened on, I believe it was Monday morning, could have been Sunday, but there was a big blurb in the register, I believe it was the local section again, about Elvis in Orange County. In all the different places that have Elvis, there was not one mention of the oldest Elvis in Orange County, and that's on Main Street with the Azteca and the car show. Why don't you guys get a hold of the register and say, what is it about us you don't like? Why don't you advertise anything? Now that's not advertising, because we have a big blurb 3 days a week on Disneyland, Fun in Disneyland, which I find very mesmerizing, because if I'm paying $98 to go somewhere for a day, I am sure going to smile all day long, because I'm paying for it. So why does the register have to waste a half a page 3 days a week with pictures of smiling people walking around Disneyland? You know what I mean? It's a waste of space. It is not under advertising, it's under news. Why can't they ever do news for us? And I believe if you guys hassled them or reminded them or got a hold of somebody higher up, and I do notice since our TV guy retired and went to Loretta Sanchez's office, we have no TV today. So any comments that are being made or any information that's being passed on today is not going to go out online, and it's not going to be on the cable for people to look at later. I wonder why that is. Now, I really have the feeling a lot of times you guys set us up to fail. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've looked in the paper on Tuesday and it said, we had a successful health fair, child this or that on Saturday. This was the previous week. This wasn't the Tuesday before saying, come out all of you that want to go to a health fair. Come out all of you that want to go to the dedication of the splash pad at Atlantis. You tell us, it tells us after the fact every single time. You have got to get on that newspaper if you want successful things in the city for us citizens to come to. Because we want to go out for some place that doesn't cost us $98 for a day's fun and entertainment. I don't have the money, and I know very few people do, but we sure like to get out and schmooze around with our citizens in the city. So, I think that's something you guys could concentrate on, is getting on their case. And just one more little point before my red light goes on. There are 3 incidents here in our consent items that I find very annoying that they're just going to be consented on with no comment. We have the response to the grand jury report entitled Elder Abuse, the Perfect Storm. We as citizens might like to know what the perfect storm is coming for elder abuse. Also, response to the grand jury report entitled The Dissolution of Redevelopment. Where have we been? What lies ahead? We might like a few comments on that too, rather than, I know this has to do with your response, but what are you responding to? What have they found? Whatever. And also the response to the grand jury report for emergency medical response in Orange County. Are we doing a good job of emergency medical response? Are we not? That's something we as citizens should know. So, and also I did notice consent item again, 4C, we're purchasing a fleet of 8 vehicles for almost $200,000, once again from LA County, because the deal is better. well, maybe the deal for us when we buy cars is better out of this county and out of this city, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles Mitchell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and staff. I also want to mention, as Peggy did, about the fact that you are going to publicly respond to the grand jury reports. I think it's commendable that you're doing this in public. You're recognizing the efforts of the grand jury of the last year and what they have been putting out to make the public aware of problems that we have in Orange County. So again, I commend you for at least airing this publicly so that people know what your response is going to be to these reports. On another note, I was able to get some information. I thank members of the city staff on the water park project. Now, from my understanding, we are giving the property to the developer. We have made a claim with Sacramento that we are stuck with this. It's a contract. We have to go through with it. And that after the developer builds the water park and it is in operation, then we are going to compensate them for their expenses to the tune of $42 million that we are going to float a bond for. In addition, there will be a $5 million bond to pay for a parking structure. I find the last part very interesting because there have been several situations involving parking structures that were paid for but never materialized. I hope this one follows through. Now, the thing with giving the developer all of this money, we're not taking any interest in the water park. We have no ownership interest in it for all of that money. What we're planning to do is we're going to gain some bed tax, and we're going to gain a little bit of property tax, and hopefully because of the water park going in, more businesses will develop along the harbor corridor. Well, I hope this happens, but it just seems very strange for us to be, under these economic times, to be giving away that much money. It seems to me like someone would approach me and ask me to take a mortgage out on my home, to give them the money so they can go out and buy a taxi cab, and in return, they're going to give me a percentage of the fares that they collect, but I'm going to get no actual interest in the taxi cab. One last question. This bond issue of 42, make it 47 million with a parking structure. Is that going to have to be approved by the voters in Orange County, or not Orange County, but in Garden Grove, since we're going to be paying for it? Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Steele.
Hi, I've been up here before and talked to you guys. I've been in Garden Grove quite a while. My name is Elaine Steele, and I live in Garden Grove. And I have been supporting the troops since 9/11 at my house. And I have a neighbor that keeps turning me into the city. I have also been told by the city I have to cut back on my red, white, and blue. And we are a city that is trying to get bond or money to build a museum for our heroes in Garden Grove. And I have been insulted by the city by telling me I have to cut back on my red, white, and blue. Then I get turned in again for my trim on my house. I have seen a lot of homes around here that their trim is bad. I have been off work for a year and a half. I work at Garden Grove High, and I was injured at Garden Grove High by a student. So I have been off work. I don't have the funds. The city is trying to get me a grant so I can paint the trim on my house. I had to cut my tree, and I've had to take a bunch of stuff down. Then before 4th of July, I got turned in again for having too much. My trees are a fire hazard, which the city said, no, they're not a fire hazard. It just seems like every time I turn around, I get turned in. The recent one, I just got turned in for having too many garage sales. Well, the code in Garden Grove, I don't understand. You only have 4 days a year for a garage sale. 4 days a year, most people have a garage sale for Friday and Saturday. And like my grandson would say, get to this 21st century. People are hurting for money, and they are going to have more garage sales than 4 days a year. And if you have the real estate people come out and they will have a neighborhood garage sale, that shouldn't count on the 4 days a year that you have. And I just, I've lived in Garden Grove a long time. I've been up here before, and things like this need to be looked into. And we need people to understand that our country right now, we need red, white, and blue. The way it's going is not very good. And we need to start supporting our country and our cities with red, white, and blue, and more people out there with that understands what's going on. And maybe the city council can look into this about the garage sales, because there's a lot of people that are hurting for money, and you always have one Friday and Saturday, maybe 4 weekends out of the year, but not 4 days out of the year to have a garage sale. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Rod Powell.
Okay, hi, my name is Rod Powell, and I'm happy to live in Garden Grove. Someone of my neighbors wanted me to ask and mention there's a matter with the OCTA that you guys are going to vote on, I think. If you could put that on the agenda, it would be nice. Maybe next week, next council session. Secondly, the lady that was up here before me mentioned, I believe it was code enforcement. And I don't know if you guys read in the paper regarding, I say guys because there's no gal. I don't know if does she get paid for tonight, for this month? If you don't show up for the whole month? Curious, So, I hope not. There's a matter in the paper that was regarding one of the people that you probably shook their hand when they got a Beautiful Home Award. And they had a dispute with one of their neighbors who had I won't say about the neighbor's circumstance, but the end result was they complained about the neighbor complained back about them, and now the city is forcing them to take a fence down that's not even near the street, and it's probably a couple, 3 or 4 inches over standard. And yet, as a friend of mine who is buying homes in Garden Grove on short sales around the area of Stanford, where I live, over by Gilbert, and he came down, he saw my house, and he was with his wife, and he says, oh, that's a beautiful house. There's all these homes and these beautiful, but there's a lot of them that are just trashed. There's a lot of, and I said, well, that's Garden Grove. This is the first thing that came out of my mouth. That's Garden Grove. You got a lot of pride of ownership, a lot of us that care about our homes. But you can, even on my street, where most of us do, there's ones that don't. There is no democratic code enforcement. It's if someone complains to the city, then they come out. And yet, like she said, there's so many homes that should be addressed. They got lopped off palm trees. That looks real nice, doesn't it? You got yards that are just trashed. So I didn't want to spend, I don't want to waste any more time on that, but it's important. I wouldn't have started talking about it. Code enforcement needs to be more democratic, and they should, if a house doesn't look right, they should make it where we can have pride in our city. And it's hard to have pride when 2 or 3 bad apple homes are ruining it on almost every street. There's always those couple bad apples, and code enforcement's busy picking on stuff that makes no sense. I wanted to talk about medical marijuana. I'm not going to let this issue drop. The more I read about it in the paper and on the internet, which includes papers all across the country. In Denver, I think it was, they've got signs on the freeway saying, come, get a higher high. The city council there is not, they're talking about, we got to take these signs down. It doesn't look good. Look on the internet if you think I'm making that up. They've got signs, basically, and our cities are no different. This city, Garden Grove, they've got special deals. These are not nonprofits. These are all for-profit. These are all racketeers. It's organized crime, pure and simple. And you know that. You know that there's not. I'm going to run out of time, but I'm going to get this point across. They're staying open until 2 in the morning. Why does any place that's need to stay open until 2 in the morning? I don't know. You probably have no idea of just how obvious it is, how flagrant it is, what's going on. In strong cities with strong leaders, do something, and they don't have dispensaries. And I'm not against, I don't know how I even feel about legalizing marijuana. This is not what the issue is. I don't know how the issue is not legalizing, the issue is medical marijuana dispensaries. That's what my issue is, and they have no place. It's, and when we're not following what the federal government is telling us to do, and taking a soft way out saying, oh, it's a catch-22, that's baloney, pure and simple baloney. And I'm going to continue to emphasize that until someone will listen to me. Thank you very much.
Okay, this time I'll close oral communications, and we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll keep it short, only a 5-minute break, please. Please call roll.
Councilmember Beard?
Here.
Councilmember Broadwater?
Here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen? Mayor Dalton?
Here. Okay, I just want to make a couple of comments on some of the things that were said. We did actually have OCTA at a meeting, and they made a presentation on the different methods of moving traffic along the 405 freeway and what alternatives they're looking at. And it was also something that they notified. There was public meetings and everything. Garden Grove as a city doesn't have a seat on it. I have a seat on the board because of OCTA, but basically the impact is very little to the city, and it's not something that the city does vote on. As far as the grand jury, the reports in there, if you like, you can go to their website, and also OCTA for that matter on the 405 freeway. All that information is on the websites, and I'm sure that you can find whatever you need there. We also have a written communications, 3A.
Mr. Mayor, you have a request from the Children's Advocacy to utilize the Atlantis Place Center on Saturday, October 20th from 9:30 to 2:30. And they're having upwards of 200 kids at this event, and they'd like to use the facility with no fee.
Okay, is there any salaries involved in it?
Not any additional than we would have staffed the park otherwise, so there's no additional staff cost. But there will be staff at the park that day.
Okay, so no additional, you say?
Correct.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on the written communication
So moved.
request?
Yeah, and I'll second that. And just, if I recall from what I read too, there's a couple hundred children that would be involved in participating, and 40 or 50% of them come from Garden Grove.
Come from Garden Grove, that's correct.
So it sounds like a great use of public park for the day. So.
Have a motion, a second, call for a vote.
Move the action.
This is yours. This is yours.
Okay.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Okay, we'll recess the council and we'll go to the successor agency.
Thank you. We'll call the August 28th meeting of the Garden Grove Successor Agency to order. And Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Member Broadwater?
Here.
Member Dalton.
Here.
Member Wynn. Vice Chair Beard.
Here.
Chair Jones.
Here. Consent items, basically just the minutes.
Move it.
Second.
Call to vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Thank you. We have no public hearings, no items for consideration. Any matters from members? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Okay, at this time, we'll convene the Garden Grove Sanitary District. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Member Dalton.
Here.
Member Jones.
Here.
Member Wynn.
Yeah.
Vice President Beard.
Here.
President Broadwater.
Here. Okay, we've skipped oral communications. We've got consent items.
You have a award of contract for engineering services for several sewer projects.
In the minutes of the meeting, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
No public hearings, no items for consideration. Matters from board members and general manager. Any items? Hearing none at this time, we will close the meeting, and it will be held until September 21st, September 25th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll reconvene the city council meeting, and let the record show that all members, with the exception of Councilwoman Wynn, all other members are present. And we'll go to consent items.
Mr. Mayor, it's recommended items 4A through 4R be acted on simultaneously unless a separate discussion or action is requested by a council member.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Hold
I
on.
have a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Okay, public hearings.
Mr. Mayor, your first public hearing is to consider a request to change the zoning designation of property on Brookhurst from C1 to C2. And Chris Chung is here to give the staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The subject site is currently zoned C1 and has a general plan land use designation of light commercial. On July 5th, 2012, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the requested zone change from C1 to C2, as well as a requested modification to the conditions of approval to the existing conditional use permit to permit live entertainment in the form of karaoke one-man band with amplified sound and a stage, in conjunction with operation of the restaurant, and to extend the permitted hours of operation. 2 members of the public came forward to speak in regard to the request, citing concerns with noise and late operating hours during the week. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission adopted Resolution Number 5771-12, recommending approval of Amendment Number A-168-12 to City Council on Resolution Number 5772-12, approving conditional use permit number CUP-575-01, revised 12, subject to City Council's approval of the zone change amendment. In the event A-168-12 is approved by the City Council, CUP-575-01, revised 12, would permit the restaurant operating on the site to operate from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., Sunday through Thursday, and 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and would authorize live entertainment at the restaurant in the form of a one-man band with amplified sound and a stage, 7 days per week, and karaoke on Fridays and Saturdays. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing for consideration of A-168-12 to change the zoning designation of the subject properties located at 12332 Brookhurst Street and identified as assessors parcel numbers 089-362-01 and 02 from C1 to C2, and introduce and conduct the first reading of the attached ordinance approving Amendment Number A-168-12. That will conclude staff's report, and we are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
What's the distance between this building and the houses on the north?
Approximately 100 feet.
100 feet? Are you sure it's that? I guess you're taking it in the backyard, too.
The PE right-of-way?
How wide across is the PE right-of-way?
100 feet. The right-of-way is 100 feet.
Correct, that's 100 feet, yes.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, if you please come up. And would you state your name, and if you haven't filled out a card before you leave tonight, would you please make sure that the clerk has one? Thank you.
My name is Winona Welty, and I have lived in Garden Grove in the same house for 57 years. And what they are proposing will be a noise problem for evenings for people to sleep, because we are residents, and we're not that far away from them. That's my complaint.
Okay, what street are you on? How far away?
I'm on Melinda.
Melinda? Off Lamson, or?
So the back of your house backs up to them?
No, the front of my house does. Doesn't back up to them, but it's within a hearing distance.
It'll be on the other side of Melinda, facing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Josh?
Thanks for the opportunity to speak again. Sorry, Melinda, I'm going to disagree with you a teeny bit here. As an entertainer myself, I think that the City of Garden Grove does need to lessen its restrictions on restaurants, nightclubs, and try to encourage people to come here and spend money in the city. I believe the whole one-man band thing is severely limiting. Other cities allow full bands, and the $2,500 payoff, as I'm going to call it, for the CUP change is excessive, I believe. I think we should make things a lot easier on our small business owners. I'm not saying give them $47 million, but lighten up a little bit. And I would include some verbiage in their contract that they'd be responsible for some type of sound wall, sound reinforcement, insulation or something like that to keep the noise from disturbing the neighbors. We had that thing fail on Harbor Boulevard, that Battle of the Dance, because their noise was excessive, late night partying and whatnot in the parking lots. Well, let's just work on the contract so that they have to have security, but let them run their business, let them make some money. Let's bring in some income, keep people in Garden Grove spending money as opposed to having to leave and go to other cities. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else want to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion. Okay. Yes, you have a question? Or a motion?
I'm comfortable with moving approval. I read through staff's report and all the conditions. Looks like they covered the bases very well with conditions and staff, and this also went through the planning commission. If there's any concern, maybe we could also add a condition of bringing this back for staff review within 6 months or something like that, just to kind of do a spot check on it and see if there's any operational issues.
Are you sure we want to do this tonight?
Bruce?
It's fair play to all parties, we're having a 5-person council. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't think that she's been involved in anything. I mean, there are people out there. 5 may make it vote different than 4. I mean, just 2 of us at the bail out.
Okay, any comments? From up here.
Was there a motion made? Did you make a motion?
Not yet. Is there a desire to continue it, or?
Well, I don't know who the party is that has submitted this, but if I was them, I'd want a full council. I mean, because two of us can knock this out, where if you had a full council, it would take three.
Motion to defer till the next meeting? We have
Sure.
a full council?
Sure.
Okay, is that a motion I heard?
Yeah, that's my motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Have a motion, a second, call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Okay, 5B.
Mr. Mayor, 5B is another public hearing to consider amending the Harbor Corridor specific plan to allow additional medical office uses within the retail shopping center at Harbor and Garden Grove Boulevard, and Chris Chung is here to give the staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The Harbor Corridor Specific Plan District Commercial Zone generally encompasses those properties located at the intersection of Harbor Boulevard and Garden Grove Boulevard. The Harbor Corridor Specific Plan currently limits the size of medical office uses within the HCSP-DC zone to no more than 4,000 square feet or 5% of the total building square footage of a retail shopping development, whichever is less. Harbor Plaza LLC, owner of an existing multi-tenant shopping center located at 12942 Harbor Boulevard, the Harbor Village Plaza, has requested that the Harbor Corridor Specific Plan be amended to modify this limitation by increasing the allowable percentage of medical office uses in order to allow a new medical office use to occupy an existing 5,500 square foot vacant tenant space within the shopping center formerly occupied by Blockbuster Video. The proposed amendment would ease this limitation to accommodate more medical office uses in retail shopping centers within the subject zone, so long as adequate parking to accommodate such new or expanded medical office uses is available. The proposed amendment would increase the allowable percentage of medical office uses to a maximum of 25% of the total building square footage of a retail shopping development, whichever is less. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing for consideration of amendment number A-169-12, a text amendment to the Harbor Corridor Specific Plan to modify the limitation on the size of medical office uses within retail shopping developments located in the District Commercial Zone of the Harbor Corridor Specific Plan area in order to increase the allowable size of such medical office uses to a maximum of 25% of the total building square footage of a retail shopping development, subject to the satisfaction of applicable parking requirements, and introduce and conduct the first reading of the attached ordinance approving amendment number A-169-12. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would
Well,
like to?
let's go back again. I'm not sure I picked up the square footage that'll increase for health use.
It would be 25% maximum of the total building square footage of the retail shopping development.
What does it take up right now?
Currently, there is an existing medical use in that center that is,
What percentage of the current, what percentage does it have right now?
$4,000 square feet or 5%.
So we'll go another 4 times larger than that?
Percent.
oh, I'm sorry, the current medical office use in that center is 9.7%.
9.7%. So, and we're going to go up to, what's the maximum amount after we vote tonight if we voted in?
25% maximum.
You know, the object of having that retail there is to make sales tax off of it from our perspective. And
I think one of the concerns, though, is too that there's probably a lot of vacancies in that area,
Yeah.
and as well as everywhere else. You know, and so I think we're trying to look and say, well, maybe we have to reevaluate what we can do now because of the times and all.
Let's open the
Yeah,
public
well,
hearing.
no, go ahead
People
if there's
speak
any
and
other
then we can
questions.
comment.
Any other questions?
I'd like to add on to
Staff?
what you guys are saying, but I'd
Yeah.
like to hear from the public first.
Okay. Open a public hearing. You,
All right, as a member of the public, I agree with Mayor Dalton completely on this. If we've got a bunch of vacant stores, let's fill them up with something. Let's get something in there. There's going to generate some kind of tax dollars off of the medical offices. Don't let it sit vacant. We're already too much of a ghost town as it is.
Okay, anyone, Peggy Bergen.
I'm very familiar with that because when I first moved to this city, my doctor's office was in that, or my medical facility, I guess, was in that, and it closed, and then I had to go to Yorba Linda. But I will say this, that facility that would be increased and put into the Blockbuster would be very visible for the possible hotels, or probable hotels, let's say, that will be right across the street. And there's nothing people like more, especially if this place would maybe have an emergency medical office part that would be open till 9 or 10 at night. Kids' scrapes, bumps, whatever, nauseated stomachs from eating too much stuff. I really think that would be a very, very good use of that because the Blockbuster has been empty for a very long time in that facility. And I can't see what difference it would make because we can always re-attack this later on when we decide that the business is booming and we can ask them not to renew their lease because it's going to be rented property. It's not going to be, they're not going to own the property it's in. But I think it would be a very good use of that property. And there's another one, basically, there's a couple of other ones in that emergent area, and there is also, it's about a half a block from Garden Grove Hospital. And I'm sure they would like to have more of their own office space or people that they can refer nearby rather than having to send them to another city. So I think it would be a very good use. And don't forget, anyone that works in a medical office, they eat lunch. And there's a lot of different places around there where they can go and buy lunch. And that's sales tax. I don't know how big, but at least it keeps them in the city eating, not going someplace else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Charles Mitchell.
In reference to that office building and the medical practices there, I had an occasion recently to visit because there was a requirement of my application to become a code enforcement person for the city. And I noticed a lot of empty spaces in that building, and I think there's already medical practice there. And adding more medical practices would increase the factor of services to people in the area because you can put in not only general medical practices but also dentistry, chiropractic. There's a whole field of medical services that could be expanded into that building that would make it more of a one-stop place for people that need services. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time I'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
How about a comment before the motion?
Go ahead.
I disagree with what was said here tonight. I mean, basically, since Proposition 13, before Proposition 13, property tax was the main revenue source for the city of Garden Grove and any other city in the state of California. Proposition 13 really killed that off. And after that, sales tax became the main revenue. And when you fill up a retail property with tenants that will not generate sales tax revenue, you're completely missing the whole purpose of why we have retail property there. Now, I haven't got anything against medicals going in there. My brother used that one facility when he had dialysis. And I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know what the absentee, the empty rate is for the big building next door to the hospital. I mean, there's all kinds of places around there for medical facilities. Using retail is not a smart move, and I am going to vote against the issue.
Okay, any other comments or?
Well, I think I disagree with you disagreeing with that. I'm backfilling.
You disagreeing with me?
Yeah.
Remember, I owe you $1,000.
I'll make you pay that too. I think it is the best use for this property. I don't want to see it remain vacant. I see a lot of backfilling with these Blockbusters buildings, be it a Starbucks, retail, or Fresh and Easies or things of that nature. So in this instance, at this location, my biggest concern would have been the parking. So, and with that, I think it satisfies the parking. They did surveys, has sufficient parking and such. So in lieu of seeing it vacant for however long, and it's a good use, there'll always be a medical use in that vicinity, and so it has been in the general area a need for medical. So with that, I think it's the best use at this location at this time, but I'm not disagreeing with your philosophy of having retail and retail designated areas as well. But in this instance, I think this is the best use and best backfill for this site.
Well, I think we have too many buildings that are vacant right now, and I think we have to take some action sometimes that we might not normally do under other circumstances. So I'm going to support the motion. Did you make the motion?
I'll also move.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Any other comments? Call for the vote.
Just one last one for kind of point of clarification. It's all been said, but just for point of clarification, this item has specifically to do with the Harbor Corridor specific plan, and I would agree that we were kind of overly restrictive on allowing medical use within those centers in that plan, more so than we would in just general commercial areas the rest of the city. So, I mean, I agree there's nothing wrong with lightening up a little bit and letting the spaces fill in at a time like this.
Call for the vote.
Motion received 3 yes votes, with Councilmember Broadwater voting no.
5C.
5C is a public hearing to consider a allocation of fiscal year 2012-13 state supplemental law enforcement service funds for the police department, and Kevin Rainey is here to give a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before you tonight is to seek approval to receive approximately $275,000 allocated in the current state budget as part of the state supplemental law enforcement services fund, and then to also seek approval to modify our 2010-2011 SLESF allocation also. And in going back to 2010-2011, in August of 2010, the City Council held a public hearing and approved approximately $100,000 in allocated funds provided by SLESF. We were notified that our allocation actually increased, and so we're asking for modification in order to go back before the Board of Orange County and encumber these funds also. It's estimated that the current fiscal year, we're going to receive approximately $275,000 from the SLESF, and the only limitations on these funds are that the funds must be used to support frontline law enforcement services. Our intended use of these funds are to re-equip our police units with mobile data terminals. We've been trying different tablets, different technology items in the cars to see if we could perhaps move in a different direction as far as how we transmit information electronically to our officers in the field. But we found that the technology isn't quite ready to support all the applications that we have so far from a tablet standpoint. And so we are going to be earmarking this money to re-equip all of our police vehicles with mobile data terminals, because currently they're on their absolute last leg of life, and we've been basically resuscitating them for about 18 months. And so the timing of this allocation is perfect. So what I'm requesting is council approval for the allocation of $275,000 in 2012-2013 SLESF funds, and also to approve the modification of $198,000 in remaining 2010-2011 SLESF funds in order to buy frontline law enforcement equipment.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief, for staff?
Yeah, I have a question related to the distribution of the county. Is it involved some way or somehow?
The county has a board that is the SLESF oversight for each county, so we do have to go before a board in October in front of, not the Board of Supervisors, but it's a board that's in charge of approving the SLESF funds for each county.
Okay, this is not competitive, this is an allocation for each city?
It's an allocation, but it does require review and approval to ensure that the uses are in fact for frontline law enforcement support.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time I'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, Josh.
First of all, Chief Lenny, you're doing a great job. I feel very safe as a resident here, and keep it up. I absolutely want our men in blue to have the best equipment that they could possibly have, but let's look at the contract. Let's see if we can find a cheaper way. We don't always have to go and buy the very first product that comes out. Let's shop around a little bit. Let's be fiscally responsible with this, and just really, really shop around when we're going to spend $275,000. Shop around, please. That's all.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none. Charles Mitchell?
I'm trying to discern what the equipment is going to be. Now, I've been reading articles about the fact that police officers are involved in a lot of things at the same time when they're on patrol, and a lot of times they're trying to interact with their computer as well as keeping track of calls that they're answering and things like that. Now, there is a voice communication system with the computer so that you don't have to use the keyboard. You can communicate with the computer verbally, and I wonder if this is part of that program.
It is something that we're looking at during our research, but the research is going to continue for probably 6 or 8 months until we actually decide what equipment to purchase.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing at this time.
Move to issue.
I have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Items for consideration.
Mayor, 7A is a status report from staff who were evaluating the intersection at Lamson Avenue in Manly, and Dan Candelaria is here to give a staff report on that item.
Mr. Mayor, for safety and efficiency reasons, traffic engineering recommends the traffic signal at Lamson Avenue and Manly Street remain. In addition, staff recommends that the intersection be upgraded to incorporate the following safety enhancements. First, adjust the signal operations such that during the hours of 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., the signal will rest on red for traffic on Lamson. Outside this time frame, during peak traffic periods, the signal operations would be implemented in a conventional manner where the green light would rest with Lamson. Second, add curve warning signs with a supplemental placard notifying motorists to slow down to 40 miles per hour. And lastly, paint lane line extensions through the intersection to help ensure drivers stay in their lane as they drive through the intersection.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What about that, I don't even know what you would call it, it's out in the middle of the street, the divider, is that going to be taken out? I mean, it was originally put in there and it had the city of Garden Grove advertised on it. I don't know if there's any purpose there at all. And I don't know if it's a good idea to take it out either. I mean, I got mixed emotions on it because we certainly don't want to have somebody go over in the other line and have a head-on collision.
The city's received funding, approximately $1 million, to put raised median on Lamson between Manly and Knott, and we'll be looking to probably come back next month with that item for your approval.
Did you realize there was an accident there at 10:30 a.m. this morning?
I do.
Anybody get hurt in that?
There was a young driver who made a turn and got distracted with some friends on the side of the street.
It wasn't coming from a straight out of Seal Beach area?
No, he was traveling northbound on Manly, and he turned right to eastbound Lamson. And as he was talking to some people, he ran into a pole.
Really dangerous corner. I mean, it really is.
Where was the pole? On the median or on the side or on the...
It was on the south side of Lamson, just east of Manly.
So he had to jump the curb to hit the pole.
Kind of made a hard right and up the curb?
Yeah, he was distracted, and he swerved to the right, and he hit the pole, which is pretty close to the curb on the south side of the road.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if we take an action tonight, how soon could we implement some of these?
Tomorrow.
Okay. With that, just the general traffic, is it 10,000 trips a day on Lamson, basically, or approximately?
It's a little bit more. It's closer to 15,000.
Okay, and you multiply that, you're talking about 3.6 million trips a year, basically? Thereabouts.
Quite a bit.
So, and how many, not for all the statistics, but there's going to be a fair amount of daily accidents of speeding and collisions and such, but a lot less than you would think. This will help to mitigate that for sure. But the biggest thing, the fatality, the major accidents have occurred at night during those hours that you suggest that we make it a red light, and it's activated too, right? You come up to the red light and then it's activated?
That's
green?
correct.
Okay. And had we done something like this, made it a permanent red light all the time, 24/7, that would have been backup of pedestrian or traffic going that volume, large volume of traffic going down there. That would have been brought also complaints.
I
from the
disagree
other
with
side
you.
of
I
the
think
city.
a blinking red light would be the ideal thing to resolve the whole problem. Now, I know that engineers don't agree with me on that, but
well,
I just believe that that's red light blinking. When they come off of out of Seal Beach area, they go, I don't know, at least a quarter of a mile to a mile of no lights at all. I don't know what the speed limit is, but they hit that light and they see a green light coming, and as they see the green light, they hit the gas a little more and make sure they make that green light. And next thing you know, you've got a small turn in the street there. Not much, but there's a small turn, and it's just not enough to cause an accident there.
Well, I think what would be interesting is, and I don't want to make extra research for you for nothing, but the thing is, how many of the accidents that have occurred there, serious accidents, how many involved alcohol or drugs or speed? And how many of the people that are involved in the accidents lived in the area? If they live in the area, they know when they come around that turn, they're driving it probably every day. They know what it's like.
I know what it's like.
Yeah.
I live in that area. That's where I go. I travel there all the time. And with that, so I think this is a good start. It's definitely. So we try it out. These are good, excellent measures. I think it is a start. So we see how this works out. But I wouldn't be in favor of a full-time red light. Or if circumstances change and this is implemented and we figure, well, it's not working or we need more, I think this is an excellent way to start out addressing this issue at this location. With that, any more comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to jump in and back up staff on this one. I think they did a really good job of sizing this up from an engineering and traffic standpoint. So 10 or 15,000 cars a day, relatively speaking, is pretty low volume of traffic compared to most arterials throughout the city. I mean, if you look at our major intersections or even a lot of other sections of Lamson, that's pretty low traffic volume. So the problem isn't that there's too much traffic, it's that there's low traffic volume and there's long straightaway without any lights, and therefore it's sort of a natural speedway going through there with the curve, which creates accidents as we've seen in the past. So I think it's very clever. Stripe it so that you draw more attention to the curvature of the road. The logic that you described of making the light naturally red after 10 p.m. or whatever you said on Lamson, so that you have to stop on Lamson. You can't speed through it. It's a natural stop until a car comes up and triggers the light to turn green, and vice versa, to allow traffic flow during the parts of the day when it necessitates a little more traffic in this area. I think it's very well thought through. I think this is going to work just fine. I think we've needed this for a while, so I'm glad we're doing something.
Quick question. Policing, do we regularly enforce the speeding down that area at all? Like quarterly, or do you know? On occasion, do we traffic?
I don't know offhand what
do policing
activities are.
Okay. Well, maybe we can add that too if we ever need it at certain times if we feel the need for it.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Motion is second by me, I guess. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes.
7B.
I'd like to have a police report, a copy of a police report on that accident that happened today.
7B.
Mr. Mayor, 7B is an award of contract to KOA Corporation for on-call professional engineering services, and Bill Murray is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fertel, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. Tonight, council is being asked to award a contract for on-call engineering services not to exceed $300,000 to KOA Corporation. The purpose for obtaining an on-call contract is to perform civil engineering design and construction management services in conjunction with the city's $15 million capital improvement program. Staff prepared a request for proposal in June and received 3 valid responses. Staff reviewed and rated the proposals, as well as interviewed and tested the staff that would be directly responsible for the work. Staff determined that KOA Corporation would provide the most qualified service to the city with a negotiated cost for service consistent with the industry standards at this time. The funding for this contract will be paid for using Measure M or gas tax as contained within the project-specific budgets. Should council decide to award the contract this evening, staff can begin utilizing these services by the end of September. This concludes staff's report.
Any questions for staff? Okay, if none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the issue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
7C.
Mr. Mayor, 7C is an agreement with Valley Cooper and Associates for on-call professional construction and inspection services, and Mr. Murray is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fertel. Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, council is being asked to award a contract for on-call construction inspection services for a fee of not to exceed $300,000 to Valley Cooper and Associates. The purpose for obtaining an on-call contract is to perform site inspection to ensure compliance with the city's plans and specifications in conjunction with the construction of the city's $15 million capital improvement program. Staff prepared a request for proposal in June and received 4 valid responses. Staff reviewed and rated the proposals and determined that Valley Cooper and Associates would provide the most qualified service to the city with a negotiated cost for service consistent with the industry standards at this time. The funding for this contract will be paid for by Measure M or gas tax as contained within the project-specific budgets. Should council decide to award the contract this evening, staff can begin to utilize these services by the end of September. This concludes staff's report.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move the issue.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Okay, next item.
Mr. Mayor, 7D is an award of contract to Mamco, Inc. for a project known as the West Garden Grove Supplemental Transmission Main, a water project, and Dave S. Minger is here to give the staff report on this item.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff recommends that Mamco Incorporated be awarded a contract for construction of the West Garden Grove Supplemental Transmission Water Main Project in the amount of $6,050,000. The project consists of furnishing and installing approximately 30,500 feet of 6 to 18-inch diameter water main and 3,005 feet of 15 to 24-inch sewer main improvements. Although both the water and sewer improvements will be located primarily in Chapman Avenue, some of the water main will be located in Lamson Avenue, Euclid Street, Allen Drive, Nutwood Street, Santa Rosalia Street, and Beach Boulevard. The water main will increase efficiencies of existing facilities and be constructed in lieu of constructing a new production well in West Garden Grove. The sewer main replacement will alleviate sewer flow deficiencies. 8 bids were received and opened by City Clerk's office on August 9th. The low bidder was Mamco with a total bid of $6,050,000. Licenses, references, all of our other paperwork has been reviewed and verified by staff. Sufficient water sewer funds are available for the construction of this project. It is therefore recommended that City Council award the contract and authorize City Manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city and make minor modifications as appropriate. This concludes the staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move award of the contract.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Call for the vote.
When I first read that, I thought to myself, why are we leaving? Why don't we still do our transmissions with Leon? Okay. Anyway, Leon lost this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Brown, no, didn't take it.
Didn't work?
Didn't work. Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Okay. Mr. Broadwater, do you have anything?
I just want to address some of the things that were said earlier. First of all, I don't think anybody in the world has any control over the Orange County Register. You know, it's amazing somebody hasn't dynamited those people over there. They're so far out of control. You know, so I think anybody that thinks that we can exert some pressure against them, they are really living in a dream world. Second of all, how many bonds have we sold? I mean, how many bonds have we failed to pay back over the years? I mean, is there any time we've ever missed a payment on a bond? I mean, we've got a great record for buying. And what needs to really be pushed out here is we're not giving anybody that money. They're the ones who have to pay it back. And the reason that we don't do it until the hotel is built, because the hotel is ours if they don't pay the bonds off, which that hotel would be probably worth 10 times that much. So I think it's a great deal we're doing, and it needs to be expressed that. We're not giving anybody that money. They're going to pay for it through the nose. So I don't understand why people don't understand that. I don't understand why people don't, especially people running for council. You'd think they'd look really deeper into that. Anyway, can't do anything about it. Plus, the $4.5 million. I don't hear any of them mentioning the $4.5 million. You're crying about everything else. What about the $4.5 million that we will get out of that hotel in bed tax forever? And it goes right into the general fund. Now, I'm ashamed of my fellow citizens not understanding that. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, Mr. Jones.
I don't have anything to add. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Beer.
Happy birthday to Councilmember Bruce Broadwater.
I accept.
And a happy and safe Labor Day to all those out there. It's coming up. Congratulations to Miss America, I'm thinking ahead, Miss Garden Grove, the new, and the Miss Garden Grove teen. But we passed a resolution in the consent item about Leah Cecil. She was Miss California. She's going on to Miss America pageant. So good luck to her. And they all represent the city well. They're talented. They're beautiful. They do community service. And so I wish them all well. And they're going to do well after having gone to the ceremony, the pageant this last Friday. Yeah, Friday. They did an outstanding job. And all the contestants are really winners in that event. And it's actually a scholarship pageant. So they do well. They represent the city well. And they all do well. And they're all winners. Since it is Labor Day, we're going back to school, and there's going to be some changes with some of these schools that are under construction. People will take notice and be aware of that, please. And I just want to comment on the great series that we had in Eastgate Park for the Conscious in the Park. It went very well. My kudos to staff, the Garden Grove Community Foundation. I look forward to seeing it again next year. I know the residents of the area look forward to it as well. And just to comment on a speaker earlier tonight, she made mention about promoting events. We talk about things after the fact. Well, we have an excellent website for the city. And you had made comment about that person does earn their pay by putting it on that website, but he does more than just a website. So I know him personally, and know he does a professional job, and we get the information out there the best we can, and we have no control over the media, and so hopefully the other events, future events, will move on or get promoted and develop over time, be it the film festivals and such. So again, I want to wish everyone a happy Labor Day coming up.
You're losing them, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to say ditto for everything he said, because I was going to say it, but I gave him the first opportunity. And we'll adjourn this meeting till the next council meeting, Tuesday, September 11th, 2012, at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Thank you.